Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Men to Men podcast. We are again live, and we are both again back in the building.
Yes,
y'all.
sir.
This what's up,
Yes,
man?
sir.
What's up, dude?
Hey, not much. What's going on, baby? How you
Man, I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
Feeling good, dude. Love having you in the building, dude. Love
Yeah.
having you here.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about it. You preaching in town, huh?
Yes, sir. Sunday.
Sunday.
First Baptist Olo. Shout out to all my Olo folks. If you
All
watching.
right, that's what's
If
up,
you're not,
man.
you need to be watching.
You need to
Subscribe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So we here today, and man, we didn't had vacations, we didn't had work, we didn't had a whole bunch of stuff happen. So we missed a couple of weeks, but we thank y'all for tuning in, and thank y'all for watching the replay as well. And so we are continuing our series. This is gonna be a series. We're gonna do this for as long as it need to be done.
I'm with it.
Yeah, because
I'm with it.
this one chapter that we were supposed to do finish last time, we finished it this time. And so we got other chapters that I'm sure we're gonna do the same thing too. And so we got for those of you who are tuning in or didn't hear the first talk, we are talking about the book. We're doing a book review of the 5 Love Language by Dr. Gary Chapman. This is the book right here. It may look familiar to some of y'all if y'all are like some of y'all have been in the church and or been married or something like that. Some of you may have went through it with your premarital counseling, or maybe some of y'all went through it, with your marital counseling and stuff like that. And so here's the thing, man. There's 5 things in here that are important for all married couples to understand, and to get. And so today we're specifically going to talk about words of affirmation. Last time we talked about it, we started off the first half of the chapter, and this week, this live stream, we're going to finish up the last 2 bits of it. So today we're going to be talking about humble words, and we're going to be talking about kind words.
Come on now.
And these are 2 things, man, that they're important, right? Because the way you say things,
come on,
right?
Yeah.
And what you say matters, right?
Yeah.
And what you say and how you say it matters too. You saw I flipped that right there.
Hey, that was it.
Right? You ain't
Sound
the only
like a brother
one.
with some experience.
I'm just saying, man. It's just it take a little bit of experience, right?
Yeah.
So man, just a little bit of review. Last time we talked about encouraging words. We talked about we told the story in the book where he talks about a lady who was a writer. She didn't have the confidence until her husband encouraged her to do it, and she went on to be an artist. Author, different things like that. And so, what are some other things, man, from the last one that you remember? I hate to put you on the spot.
Yeah, you did. It's all good. Encouragement is needed. He encouraged me and just pushed me right on.
Right on in there. There you go. As I read my notes.
Yeah,
hallelujah.
I'm thinking through it. I mean, just the encouragement aspect of it, I think, we can benefit from being encouraged by our spouses. And so any way in which we can do that, I'm saying a lot without saying that.
There's a whole lot of nothing, man. Hey, but it's cool.
Encouragement,
man, is needed.
That's what I remember.
That's what it is.
I needed in my marriage.
So we talked about the power of the tongue. We talked about continuing to encourage each other. We talked about how when your spouse encourages you to do something, it's different than when other people encourage you to do something. Man, we talked about people can tell me that I'm doing good, that I'm doing great. That's wonderful. That's whatever.
Right.
But when my wife tell me, man, that do something,
it's
man.
Different.
It do something in my soul, do something in my heart, man. That pushes me to keep going.
Yeah.
And we talked about the difference between like encouraging somebody to do something and then like nagging somebody to do something, right?
Yes.
And so not taking advantage or trying to play this mind game or anything like that. So yeah, man, that's what we talked about last time. But this time, man, we're going to talk about kind words. We talked about it a little bit on the last live stream. If you want to hear more about it, you can go back and watch that. But we're going to probably repeat a lot of the stuff that we talked about last time in this section. But what we talked about your kind words, and we talked about the way that you speak to people. We talked about the difference between, we're going to talk about it more today, talk about the difference between your words versus your tone. Right? Because you can say, I love you, and you can be like, I love you. And that means like 2 different things. You can be like, like, man, you look good, girl. Or I mean, you look good. Like that's a big difference between
the doghouse.
Right. There's a quick way to do that, man. So just in your experience, you can share your experience, man, or just from your knowledge, man. What have you seen in your marriage or even in your other relationships that where you benefit from what you say and how you said stuff falling around in the background. We was for the fight, y'all. We didn't know what that was.
I'm finna fight a spiritual battle because
for
they
the
done
fight
back over
something. Ain't nothing like that.
yeah. So what's funny is like I'm thinking about me and my wife, and I want to say she kind of emphasizes kind words more than I do, and I'm usually the one where my tone is not always kind.
Yeah,
but like the intention is not to be mean either. So
right.
There have been multiple times where she says it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and it makes the world of difference. And I'm like, but I wasn't trying to be. And she's like, that's not the point. The intent is not the issue here. It's how you're communicating right now. That's really important. And I think that just the mere fact of like in marriage, not ensuring, but making it a point and an emphasis, being intentional as far as like how you communicate is just as important. I think a lot of guys, they're like, it don't really matter.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does very much so.
It speaks a world of difference, and you'll see a different change in your spouse if you're like, hey, I'm really working on how I'm saying this.
Right.
Or even if you just communicate that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is hard for me, but I really want to be intentional in this moment.
Right.
And I think it's just how you say it, bro. Like just words of always shown in my marriage. When I make the intention there, it's different. And my wife appreciates that. Yeah. And I think that I just got to get over myself sometimes.
Yeah.
This is still something that I'm working on today. Because it'd be like, you be super busy and something happened, you get home and you just say something to your wife, you're not meaning anything by it, but it's not kind. It doesn't hold that weight. It's just like, oh man. And I think that I can't make that excuse. Right. We can't make that excuse if we're really going to work toward that. And I just want to say this, as we've been dialoguing on the 5 love languages, we say it every episode, bro.
Yeah.
We ain't no experts.
Nope, not at all.
And we still walking this thing out. Right. So some of y'all might see the little clips and you might think them brothers got it together.
Hey.
We are still walking this thing out, meaning we are still finding ourselves having to work on things. And I think that's the beauty of marriage.
Right.
And honestly, that's the reality of marriage. You'll always be working on things, and how you communicate is one of those things that you'll be working on for a lifetime, because seasons change too. So I'm thinking too, as well as I think of kind words, my wife just had a baby. Yep. And you got all these hormonal changes, all these different things. So she's not even the same person.
Yeah.
And so I've got to engage and interact and speak in a different way and in a different tone. And I've learned that. I'm still learning that. Let me say that. I'm still learning that, because even this morning she went walking with a friend, and then she come home, or she comes to my in-laws' house, and I'm in the bed. She like, hey, you ain't got the kids breakfast yet? I said, do it look like it? She said, nope. Nope, we're not doing that this morning. We're not doing that this morning. I had did something this morning and was hoping and I said, okay, I'm sorry. Let's restart this thing.
Right,
baby.
right.
What I meant to say is I hadn't done it yet, but I'm about to get on it.
Right.
But that's just one little aspect of like, we're working on this thing.
And I think a lot of it, man, for the man, since this is the Men podcast, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to us in our humility in the situation, right? Because a lot of times, even in that situation, you could have been like, you know what? I mean, you ain't asked me to do it.
Yeah.
Like, why I gotta do it? It's like, I know you see me sitting over here in the bed, you know, you were the one who was up, right? But as far as just like our humility in the moment, in our consciousness and awareness of the situation when we're in there, man, it makes a big difference.
Bro. I know we're talking about 5 love.
Go ahead.
And I just feel like there's a need for us to ensure that, we stay on task.
Right.
But I think that this is a good point, especially with the Men to Men podcast. I think we've talked about lust before, and we've talked about how to fight and battle. And we've even talked about where we are in regards to our struggle. So I'm going to take y'all somewhere. Y'all just got to follow me right now.
Let's go.
I think, it's interesting, the season of life that we're in. And I think we both can say that the struggles that we had as young men, even in our 20s, is different now.
Right.
And by God's grace, it's not the same falling into looking at all the things. I was talking to a brother the other day, and we were having our accountability group.
Right.
And he's like, man, you just don't seem like you really go through anything. And he's like, because I don't hear you talking about watching porn or, doing all these things, walking out on your wife and all of that. And I was like, I'm the pastor, so I hope I'm not.
Right. First of all,
but hey, there's a lot of pastors out here struggling.
Yep.
And if you're struggling, brothers, you need to confess. You need to be in the light. You need to share. You need accountability groups like that. But I told him, I said, man, we've been walking through the 10 Commandments as a church. And as you walk through Exodus, you see what's presented about who God is that he's holy.
Right.
And he's far beyond mankind. And so he's so holy and so righteous that you can't even draw near to him.
Can't even understand.
Yeah, we need a mediator. Come on now. Jesus is that me. But anyways, you see that he's holy. And I told this brother, I said, man, what I've realized in this season of my life is, although I'm not sinning in the same ways as you, or in the same ways that I once did, the sin that still shows itself up, that's being exposed by God, is just as grievous to him.
Right.
And so I said, here are the ways that I'm sinning right now in this moment, in my current season of life. I said, it's more seen, not necessarily what I'm looking at, but also like, how do I see my wife as most beautiful and most precious? I was like, there are times when, I don't even communicate that.
Right.
And so she doesn't know that she's most beautiful. And if I'm honest, sometimes there's these temptations of saying maybe there's somebody else that's more beautiful. And not to say that there's an actual person, but just the thought. Right. And so I said, that's one way. Right. And I was like, there's other ways where it's like, how do I treat my wife? Am I being loving toward her? Am I serving her in these ways? Am I serving her in a way that mirrors Christ in the church? It's like, no, see, it's like, that's another thing. I said, that's just as grievous to God. How am I discipling my kids? How am I being present at home?
Yeah.
I was like, man, you think that sin right there is not as bad as this, but when we compare it to the holiness of God, we see that it's all worth of death and judgment. And so, I was like, man, like, when we look at, kind words and we look at how we communicate, I think it's important for us to realize that this isn't like a small ticket item, or like a small thing to focus on, or to be like, man, this is important. This is so important that I think that if we're not careful as men, we can minimize its significance and miss out on so much of the blessing of God, and also an opportunity to glorify him. God is not glorified in how you talk to your wife when you talk to her in a way that's not honoring to her.
Exactly.
God is not glorified. This morning is a perfect example. When I respond to my wife in a way that doesn't see the heart of what she's trying to say, or even charitable in ways, where I'm just like going off the riff. God's not glorified in that. And that's just as sinful as me looking at an image that's not glorified to him. When we talk about the third commandment, let me just get on this and I'll be done. I'm getting off of my horse. But we talk about the third commandment, and the third commandment is, do not use the Lord's name in vain. We tend to believe that that's just what we communicate. Like, let me make sure that I don't say OMG, or let me make sure that I don't say this cuss word or thing that is against the Lord's name. And when you go into depth about the Lord's name, God is he's so intimately connected to his people and his name that it's not just what we say, it's how we live. So all of sin finds itself under this third commandment of not taking the Lord's name in vain. And it's like, you may think that that's a little thing. God sees that as a big thing. When we talk about communicating to our wives, if I can just tie it up, to wrap it up. When we talk about how we communicate to our wives in kind words, God doesn't see that as a little thing. This is a big thing. So it is important, even if it's not something that is currently where you are in this season. Brother, get equipped, because one day it'll come, you'll be married, and you'll have to practice some of these things. And you need to know how your tone matters just as much as the intent. I'm sorry, y'all. I
see how you did that, though. It's like you went and got it, then you brought it back.
I tried.
You went and got it, you brought it back.
Shout out.
Right there. There
Shout
it is,
out.
man.
Shout
But that's a big that's a big deal, though. Because when we look at, since our goal for Men to Men, Men to Men podcast, right? Men to Men ministry is to honor God in every single part of our lives. Like, we have to see every part of our lives as important.
Yeah.
From the secret sin we may be trying to hide or maybe have come out of, to, like you said, the simple things of how we approach our wife and or even talk to our kids in the morning when we sleeping, right? When we did not had a good night's rest, or when we're hungry or stuff like that. Like all of that, like our whole entire life has to honor God. And like you said, man, and just like you said, specifically talking about what we talk about today, like it's so important. When you think about it, man, when you think about the relationship of a wife and a husband, right? When you think about how significant that is, a lot of people don't think that's significant. Right. They think it's significant for like the physical stuff, right? For the sex and for the money. And, you know, oh, she got a job, so we're gonna have more money, the house, being able to share stuff. Like we think it's just that kind of stuff. But man, it's so much more, right? The peace that can come from having somebody to share things with you, right? The love that you can feel when, as a man, you're feeling weak or you're feeling sad or you're feeling like, yo, I got to get these emotions out. To have somebody to go to and be like, yo, babe, I'm struggling right now, right? To have somebody who can call you up, right? Someone who can, like, a built-in accountability person, right? Right.
Come on now.
Somebody who can call you out and be like, yo, you know, when you were talking to the kids the other night, man, that was a little rough. Or, you know, when you was talking to your mom on the phone the other day, man, I didn't really think that was good. When you talked to me the other day, I ain't like how you did. You like, you know, but it can be our response, right? When we talk, going back to what I was starting to say about humility, like it goes back to when we take in that information, like how are we gonna filter that through whatever we need to filter it through, in order to spit out whatever we're gonna spit out in a way that honors God. Right. And a lot of times, sadly, man, we respond in a way of anger, of being tired, of frustration, or whatever. And none of that, even though we may not see it, it's like, well, I didn't cuss her out. Right. You know, I didn't call her out of her name. You know, I didn't, you know, I didn't call her this. I didn't call her that. I didn't tell her to leave. I didn't tell her that I didn't love her or anything like that. But like, all of our words matter. All of our words matter. Especially when it comes to our wife, man. Everything matters, right? What you say, what y'all text and text messages, like all of that, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of it. And so when it comes to our responses, when it comes to how we say things, this is the point I was trying to get to, man. We just all over the place this morning.
You're doing great, bro.
The point I was trying to get to is, you said something earlier. But what I took from it is like stopping and thinking. Right. I have learned probably within the last maybe 5 years of my marriage, right? We've been married for 13 years. Right. Probably I've been more intentional with thinking about what I say before I say it. Right. There are times, I think I said this in the last live stream, where one time my wife came to me, she was upset. And I said, I'm tired of this, man. I'm tired of filtering my thoughts. I'm tired of stopping and thinking about it. And I responded in a way, and she snapped. Right. And later on, when we both cooled down, she told me, like, hey, I'm looking for you to be the one who's calm. Right. I'm looking for you to be the mediator, right? I'm looking for you to be the one that even if I come to you sideways, hot, I'm looking for you to be the one to respond in a way that is not matching my energy. Right. And part of me was just like, that ain't fair. Right. Like, it's her, right? But as the man of God,
come on now.
Right. If our goal,
the mandate,
right? If our goal is to be the one who sets the tones for our family, like we have to be that person, right? It just, I mean, it sucks. Right. But we are the ones who are going to set the tone for our family. We set the tone for every single conversation we're having with our wives. We set the tone for our kids. We set the tone. Right. And we have to lead by example. And golly, man, so many rabbit holes I want to go down in my brain. Bro, but I'm what you got to say?
And I'm writing stuff down too as you talk, because I'm just like, hey, he talking. So
my main point is think about it.
Right now. Hey, so
think about it.
Okay, so humility, because that's really what I want to get on. There's something about humility where I think that and this is going back again, because hopefully if you're watching the Men to Men podcast and you're hearing us talk about these different topics, and again, we're not the experts on this and we're still in process and working. Let's get that down right there, just on the front end. when we talk about humility, I think that there is a link in a close relationship, a symbiotic relationship with repentance.
Okay.
And I think that the thing there that is important to know, and so let me use y'all's example as an example.
Go for it.
So you and your wife, you say I'm tired, and then she go off, and we realize our mandate and our call. Perfect opportunity right there. Living in the humility, but living in the humility through repentance, and allowing that to be a moment to say, you know what, baby, you're right, and I just want to apologize in this moment. And I think that's a game changer right there.
Right.
And when I think about living into the mandate, it's yes, we've been called to live in this way, to be these examples and models, but no, we won't do it perfectly. And because we won't do it perfectly, we have just as much a responsibility to live into repentance, to apologize, to change, to turn, and to live in that way that we've been called to live in. And I think that the best way to really flesh it out for us as not just husbands, but also as we look at our family as fathers, is we've been called to be the chief repenters of our families. To be the first to say, I'm sorry.
Right.
To be the first to turn and change in action.
Right.
You know what? You're right. And I need to turn. I need to change. This moment is not a moment for me to live into all the things that are rising up in this moment.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know, and I think that's the hardest thing to do, especially in those moments.
Oh, yeah.
When they call it out and they just say, I don't like the fact that you don't like, and the fact that you calling me out right now.
Right.
But it's like, nah, Joker, take that in.
Yeah.
Because she right.
Right.
Even if you don't think she right. Because most of the time she right.
Yeah. Most.
And I think if we really, going back to that holiness piece, going back to the holiness of God, we got somebody that we can compare who we are to. And we ain't never going to compare. We ain't never going to be as holy and righteous as God is in word and deed, in thought and action, in all those ways. No. And that's the thing. Like, we just want to be like, well, look at all the things that I've done outwardly, and not all the inward sins that have gone on, all the ways in which I've thought wrongly about my wife and still presented something different. It's like, that is just as much of a sin as the outward things that you do. So don't think just because you did something right, that you are right. There's something happening internally here that's wrong, that you need to change and turn from too. And how beautiful would it be to say, to be able to communicate and confess? And this is what I love about marriage. Marriage is the relationship where you can be 100% you,
right?
And that other person is still committed,
right?
It's like, hey, I know who you are. I have seen you naked and exposed,
right? Physically
and inwardly,
right?
And I'm still choosing to pursue you.
Exactly.
It's like, how beautiful it is for you to be able to say, I just don't want to be this today.
Right.
And your wife be like, okay, that's cool, but you can't stay there.
Right.
No, I need you to be this.
Right.
And even though you said that, I'm still just as committed to you as I was when we were at the altar, baby. Let's do this thing.
Right.
I'm like, man, that's what we need. Men, when you find a wife, when a husband or when a man finds a good thing.
Right.
So I don't even know. I just butchered that scripture. But when you find a Proverbs 31 woman, you know you got something good, because you got somebody that is gonna
go look at the scripture.
It's like, hey, look, yeah, go double check, fact check, please, fact check that, please, for me. But when you find somebody that's not looking at, they're not trying to get the perfect version.
Yeah.
But they know the version that they married is a person in process.
Exactly.
And he's gonna be imperfect, or she's gonna be imperfect. But you're willing to work with that. When you find somebody that's willing to work with you, despite all of the brokenness, all of the things that you have yet to really measure up to and amount to, you found somebody that's worth, and they love Jesus. Let me just say that. They can't just be willing to do it. They got to love Jesus.
You got to love the Lord.
Because they got to bring you back.
Come on, man.
And you ain't got somebody to bring you back.
Nope.
You just asking for destruction. You're asking for divorce. You're asking for all those things. And I think I'm sorry, we go in there. But I mean, I just feel like this is great. I think that the reason why divorce usually finds itself, and this is not every situation, this is not every case, so I'm not speaking to every case, but I do know that many times when divorce is on the table, it is because that person is unwilling to work with the person in process. And what they want is this perfect version. And it's like, man, if you just realize that this person is in process and y'all both come to that place,
right,
and y'all are willing to work,
mhm.
you can make it.
Yeah.
You can make it through some of the hardest things. And I'm not saying that it ain't going to be hard. I ain't going to say that you don't have a reason to get a divorce.
Right.
But I am going to say it's going to be much more worth it and meaningful because you're like, man, I know what I married.
Right.
And I'm still committed to that person.
Exactly.
God, and this is the only way that you can come to that place. God was committed to you when you still ain't perfect. So he's still committed to you and you still in process. And he's committed to that person, not the glorified person that is redeemed, fully redeemed in the next life.
Right.
But the person that is currently walking through this process of sanctification, of becoming more like Christ, but you looking more like Stephen. You know what I mean? I don't know who Stephen is, but Stephen ain't Jesus. And Jesus is still committed to you, Stephen, in all your things. So I don't know how we got there.
Right.
But
we here.
To God be the glory.
Yeah, maybe I was just for Stephen. Stephen, if you watching, bro. First of all, leave a comment.
This is the prophetic word to you, Stephen.
Stephen, whoever
we
you are
thinking of you. God loves you so much that he gave us your name specifically,
right?
To help you in your walk with the Lord, because we want to see you.
Right.
I'm kissing the mic. We want to see you honor God in all aspects of life.
Hey, you never know, man. Stephen may be watching, man. He may be watching the replay, may be watching live, and he's sitting there just like, man, I'm finna give up on this thing.
Man, come on now.
But that didn't called out my name. I believe it. That's prophetic
now.
Right there, boy. Right?
I don't know if you were going for the bump.
I don't know.
But I feel like we can't do the bump.
Right,
on Zoom.
The mic stands. All right, you right. You try to get all of them.
But we in person, baby. So
hey, we live. We live in person, man.
We live. Shout out to my sister. She said I'm watching and y'all doing a great job.
I see it. We got Constance right here.
Yeah.
I got my wife.
Keep it going.
I got my mama.
Come on, mama. Let's go.
My mama, her comment, it looks funny. I think she may have hit some extra emojis or something. But mama, I hope you didn't leave that while you was driving. I thought you was driving.
Yeah. Come on.
All right. You got Constance.
Yeah.
All right. You got my wife. Leaving a couple of comments going back to what we were talking about before. It says it's knowing your spouse. This is my wife. Yeah. And their triggers as well. As their strengths and weaknesses, man. You got to know each other, man. And I know we getting way off. And like, Gary Chapman, if you're watching, we're sorry because we're kind of butchering your stuff. I mean, he may watch one day.
He might want to use these videos.
Right, he might contact us and be like, hey, look through here, man. Like, check these guys out. They got it right, I think, maybe for a little bit. For a couple seconds before they got off.
Couple sessions.
Before they got off there, man. And dude, so it's kind of tying to what we talked about, man. Kind of backtracking a little bit. I don't know how to segue that, so I ain't gonna try. But it talks about how a soft answer turns away wrath, it turns away anger. We kind of touched on that already, but our responses in times of frustration, it makes a difference, man. And if we can make sure, right, that our goal is to always respond in a kind way, men, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna make a difference. It makes a difference. Like try it. Right. I've seen it in my marriage. I've seen it even in other relationships with other people, but especially in my marriage, because I mean, we always around each other, right? And so when she responds in a way that I don't like, dude, I'm telling you, like when I get mad, I stay mad. She knows this, right? And I be burning up on the inside. Right. And she could say something, or I could say something to her, and she'll get mad and then she'll get over it. Right. But bruh, like, it's some stuff festering. It'd be some stuff festering for me, man.
I feel it.
And dude, like, how's my response going to be, right? When I start thinking about all the stuff that she didn't do or all the stuff that she did and how I can bring that, I say, man, this is mean, right? Be sitting there. I'll be sitting there in the refrigerator, just how am I going to respond to this, right? You just got to think in the right way. Most of the times, my wife, she'll come, she'll be like, you know what? I'm sorry for how I said that earlier, right? Right. I'm sorry that I said that like that. And most of the times it fixes itself right there. Very rarely do I have to say, well, baby, you hurt my feelings or whatever. Sometimes I have to, right? But most of the time she knows from my response that, okay, cool. maybe I was a little harsh. Maybe
Yeah.
I was a little whatever. Maybe I was a little something, right? So I feel like I should apologize. She'll come. And I've seen that more often because I have to shut down those arguments, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, probably 50% of the time, I'm
Yeah.
just like, you know what, I'm gonna fight, right? Or 40% of the time, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna say something, right?
Yeah.
And then she'll say something, be like, you just trying to fight, ain't you? Right? And she just disarm me, bro. I'll be like, she's like, I ain't gonna say, I ain't gonna talk to
I
you.
ain't trying to fight.
I ain't gonna talk to you because I know you just trying to fight right now. I ain't trying to fight. You trying to fight. Yo, mama trying to fight, right? We just be sitting there, man.
Mama ain't
But
mama catching strays.
Right.
So to your point,
Go
I
ahead.
think that this is also speaking of humility. So I think I can add it in without it being, going on another rabbit chase. But I think you said something great about your wife. She knows when you're there, and it seems as if there's this aspect of allowing you to be and process too, and giving you time to, and when you're ready, we can have this conversation. But you're not ready right now. And I think that that's a beautiful part too about humility in relationship, especially in marriage, where I think, I have to get this, and I want my wife to get it too. But it's funny, I need to get it more because I feel like she's got it down better than I do. But there are moments and times where like she's moved on, she's fine, she's like your wife, she can be good. I'm like you, I'll be mad about that thing for a minute. Hey, look, don't touch me, don't hug me. We ain't watching no Netflix show together. I'm over here. I need to stroll. I need a minute to decompress. Really, because really, honestly, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how I feel, and I can't really pinpoint the problem, and I need time to get there. I hear what you're saying, but I need time to be able to sync and come in line with, okay, you're right. And that's usually what happens. I guess, you know what, you're right. But I think there's a humility aspect of like understanding what you need.
Yeah.
And also allowing your spouse that same opportunity. It's like, okay, I needed this, and now I need to extend this, even though I really want us to be good.
Right.
I think that that's important as well when we talk about that conversation. And it's ways that humility kind of comes into the picture. It's like, man, like we need to think just as much about our spouse as we do about ourselves when we think about how we talk to each other.
Right.
That was just one point. I was like, let me write that down.
That's good.
Let me put it there.
Good.
Because I think that Chapman said something in that chapter, in that section, where he talked about requests versus demands. Have we talked about that?
Nah, we talked about it off camera though.
Off camera, we talked about requests versus demands. And
we may have talked about it last episode. That was a whole month ago almost.
Yeah. Well, so when I think about some of the things, they're kind of connected in a lot of ways, but just the difference it makes. And I think it's so funny because I make this joke sometimes with my wife, and it's usually like when she's need me to do something at the house. And granted, let me just put this out here because I'm in process. I'm not perfect.
Right.
There are the moments when I hadn't done what she said. She like, hey, I need you to get the trash. We got like 3 trash bags and the garbage is overflowing. There's maggots and flies. Not literally maggots. There have been times where maggots, and it's just like, see, if you would have went ahead and did it when I told you to do it. But in my mind, when she says that, it's like,
bro, I'm sorry. You need to whoop him, dude. If you got maggots in there, bro.
Hey, look, it happened by accident. We came back to the house. We had left and went somewhere. Came back to the house, and she was 5:30 hot. It was just before we left. I'm putting myself all the way out there.
At least I was gone. At least you wasn't passing by it every day and be like, I'll get it later.
It was a couple days. It wasn't 3 bags. At this point, 3 bags that got there. And she's just like, okay, either I'm going to do this or something going to happen. And
don't let them do it.
Man.
That just, she said, forget it.
You know what? It's up in there.
You know what? She ain't going to say nothing. She's just going to pick up the trash and take it out. And you got to sit there and pretend like you don't see her doing it.
Man.
Or you just got to be like, you know what? Nah, let me take that from you, man. But I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I forgot where I was going with that.
I forgot. I messed you up.
No. It's all good. So taking the trash out and end up doing it. I'm trying to, as I'm talking, trying to come back to that thought that I had where I was going. Where did I start? Do you remember where I started?
I don't know, man. I got messed up with the maggots.
It's all funny. The maggots were bad. It wasn't funny at the time. It's just funny now that I think about it. But ended up doing it. Ended up putting the trash away after she said that. And I'm still trying to collect my thoughts, just so y'all know. I'm in process. I'm not perfect. I said that.
I I messed you up,
going
man. That's my
somewhere, bro,
bad,
with
man.
that.
That's
No,
my
it's all
bad.
good.
It was you
Dang
had
it,
started
Duncan.
good too.
Duncan.
Nah, man, I cut you off,
did me
man.
good. No, it's great. I should have wrote it down.
Nah, you good. That's my bad.
No, it's all good. But we were going somewhere, and I still want to go there.
Okay.
But I just need us to. It's just that one word that's gonna bring that thought back. It's gonna be magical.
Y'all leave the word in the comment because I forgot what it was. I messed them up, man.
No, it's
Trying
all
to
good.
talk too much.
Where are we going?
All right, so we were talking about.
There it is.
Okay,
It was that word that triggered it.
you got it.
Request demands.
All right, there you
Request
go.
demands.
All right, cool.
All right. So going back to the story, I was when she had said it the first time. The reason why it became 3 trash bags was because it wasn't for me. And there's many moments where I do this. So I'm just using this as an example, y'all. It was a moment where she had made a demand, and in that moment, Gary Chapman says like demands treat the spouse like a child, not a spouse. And I was like, I feel like I'm your child.
Right.
And because I feel like I'm your child, I ain't gonna do it right. I'm gonna do it, but I ain't gonna do it right now.
Right.
I'm gonna wait till I'm ready because I'm not your child.
Right.
I'm your spouse.
I'm not doing it because you told me to.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I want to.
And it's just something there when we make requests as opposed to just making a demand. Like, hey, sweetie, like I really just don't like it when there's 3 trash bags and we have the chance of maggots getting in. You know, if we leave this any longer, you know, it's different as opposed to like, I need you to do this now because the trash is overflowing. And it's like, man, like we need to learn this aspect of humility where it allows us the opportunity to really feel into this aspect of like, man, you are not my spouse. I mean, you are my spouse. You are not my child.
Right.
You're my spouse. You're my partner. You know what I mean? Like you're the one that I married, that I love, that I'm committed to, that we're working together. We're working together.
Right.
It's not me versus you.
Exactly.
Like sometimes that parent-child relationship is. It's like, hey, I need to get you right. And you ain't doing what daddy is saying.
So you gonna listen.
You gonna listen to that. Hey, either you do this or there's consequences.
Behind you, right?
Yay. Facts. So all that to say, we brought it back. I knew it was gonna happen. And hopefully there's a clip in all of that we can make. It's live, baby.
We live in this thing, man.
And I love it. I
think that's a big deal, right? When I read that in this book, man, I'm gonna keep holding it up. Just it looks different in whatever site you're on, depends, right? But the thing that when I read that, I was like, we've went through this book before, but 13 years in this thing, reading it again, I was like, man, that was so significant because it didn't go both ways. Husband talking to the wife talking to the husband. Yeah. Right. The act of requesting something versus what's the other word he said? Demanding something. It's a big difference, right? Because both of y'all grown, right?
Come on now.
Both of y'all grown.
Yeah.
Right. Should no grown person be telling no other grown person what they need to do? Yeah. Unless that grown person is just like, there's something wrong with them, right? And so if we first of all understand the fact that we are both adults in this thing, right? Nobody need to be talking to nobody crazy. Don't nobody need to be saying anything to somebody like you a little kid or something like that, right? Yeah. And especially like as men, because we gonna go sideways. We gonna turn to the left real quick. If you come to me talking about, if I feel like you saying little boy, anything, you may not have said little boy, right? Yeah. But you come to me asking me to take out the trash. You didn't ask me 5 times before. I don't feel like doing this. Right. Little boy, I need you to take out that trash. Right. Little boy, I need you to clean out the garage. Little boy, I need you to whatever. Right. Yeah. And so you got to think about it, man. Like, first of all, we're all grown. Yeah. And then second of all, like, we're like you said, this is a partnership, right? And so if you're in a partnership with somebody, if y'all start a business or something like that, right? Yeah. And y'all decide, hey, this is what we're gonna do. You ain't finna go to nobody and be like, hey, you need to do this, right? Yeah. Let's think about this podcast, how we do what we do. We both agreed, hey, we're gonna do this together. Yep. And so I can't come to you and be like, yo, bro, I need you to post this video. You can't come to me and be like, yo, bro, I need us to do the live right now. You need to do the live right now, right? If you come like, that's crazy. That would be crazy for us to talk to each other like that, right? Response, but when it comes to our wives, man, it's so easy for us to go into that mode where like you talk to her like you her daddy or something, right? Yeah. And it's just not a good place to be, right? It's just not a good place to be. It just isn't. What you got? Go ahead.
We kind of going into other podcasts that we've done before. Yeah. But this is the Men to Men podcast, so I think that's okay. But we talk about preparation for marriage and what you want questions that you should ask before
Right.
marriage. The little boy analogy, honestly, it goes into like, man, tell me about your upbringing. And what you begin to find is that, man, the little boy is the boy that felt rejection.
Mhm.
And that comes out when you trigger that, when you say certain things.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the little boy that was rejected as a kid. You're going to get that response as opposed to the one who's healing and in process.
Right.
And so I think that it's important that you do the work of understanding that reality, so that you know in those moments, ah, man, I said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And this is why I got this result. And that's not to say that the spouse is wrong. The spouse is still wrong in how he responded,
Right.
or how she responded. But it's good to know that.
Right.
So I think that there's a preparation aspect that comes out as we talk about this content. But I think there's also an aspect of self-work that you have to do.
Right.
In knowing the little boy, and knowing that, man, you know what? When I experienced this, there was trauma that I experienced that brought out this rejection that I feel in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's why I'm presenting myself in that. Because I don't think that you can really repent and change and turn if you don't understand some of those realities and dynamics. Not to say that you need a full-blown counselor, but that might be to say you need somebody to help you, give you some tools.
You might
to be able to walk and process through some of those things that you were experiencing as a kid. And I know that there's still things that I'm learning about myself, but the more I learn about myself, the better I can help my wife love me, and I can love my wife.
Right.
And so I think that there's some things there that we just don't talk about, where it's like, hey, when we talk about preparation and we talk about marriage, and we talk about questions and things that need to be present, and we talk about love languages and things, there is a lot of work, not just things that you should add. Like, as you read Gary's book, you're gonna find things that you should add to your marriage. But the other side of that we don't talk about, because usually when we read books, we're trying to add knowledge. Right. There's another side of that where it's like, as you're reading this book, there's going to be some work that you have to do to expose and uncover things about yourself, not necessarily add. Like, hey, it's some stuff that's already there that needs to be brought to the light. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man. I think knowing yourself as best as you can before you hop into a marriage, is good, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in there, you're in there, right? You in there, right?
Yeah.
So taking the steps that you need to take to learn more about yourself is going to help you, first of all, to understand yourself.
Yeah.
And then to be able to even communicate certain things to your spouse, to your wife, about maybe how you process stuff, how you think, why you feel like you feel, stuff like that. And so, whether that's professional through a counselor or having somebody who could talk to you about it, man, I think it's going to be good, because that's going to help with a lot of the communication, that you may feel like you are kind of lacking in. Right. You may not know why you get so angry when she says this, right? You may not know why you get so mad when she does that. You may not know why you feel so sad when that happens in the situation. So to be able to process that with somebody who can really genuinely help you through that, man, I think that's important. It's going to help with this communication bit when it comes to love languages and understanding and talking to your spouse and all that kind of stuff, man.
Today is just a conversation, bro.
It's just, we just talking.
I feel like
we all over this notes. By the way, we have covered, if you're keeping track, right, in this book, we have covered kind words and humble words, which is at the end of the chapter about words of affirmation. And so we're kind of going back and forth between those two. So I didn't know if y'all was waiting for a transition to that, but that's, we kind of going back and forth.
It's all good. This is the Minute Podcast, so you're gonna get a lot of help.
I think one thing, man, you about to say something?
Well, go ahead and say your thought. I wrote mine down this time, so
okay,
you can always come back.
Yeah. Well, your thought may be good to go to, because I was going to transition to another idea.
Okay, well, if you
go ahead,
this is a transition. So I was thinking, we're talking about, guys, we're talking about preparation, we're talking about all the things, and there was one point where I was talking about sin struggle, or just sins in general. And I think as we talk about knowing ourselves, that brings up a point, man, that I think a lot of us just need to know, especially guys that are struggling with sin, especially particular sin. What's funny is sometimes I don't think that it's you don't know how to have victory over this sin or what to do to have victory over this sin, like adding certain boundaries and doing certain things. The problem is not that. The problem is not that this sin is just so overwhelming that you can't find victory. The problem is you just don't know yourself.
Okay.
You just don't know you.
Yeah.
And when you go back and you realize, okay, the reason why I find myself watching this is because it's bringing out some type of rejection, some type of abandonment, some type of it's the root, not the fruit. Like, there's a root thing happening that now is presenting itself in how I'm sinning. And I think that it's just that I'm a man and I can't control myself. No, there's some trauma and some things that you experienced as a kid, and you don't know yourself enough to realize that that's why this is happening. That's why you're more prone to turn to this as opposed to deal with that. Because you don't even know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So, brothers, if you just learn a little bit about yourself, it'll help you in your fight with sin.
Yeah.
As we figure out how to honor God.
Yeah.
And love language, as we figure out how to love our spouse as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it was burning in me. And I think Steven, you need to hear this. Shout out to my boy Steven.
Y'all leave it in the comments.
He heavy on my heart.
Blessings on you, Steven. Y'all leave that in the
Steven,
comments.
Comment if this has been a blessing.
Yeah, Steven. Steven gonna be watching this on the replay. It's gonna be like 6 months from now. Steven gonna be like, Lord Jesus. Yeah, Lord.
I asked for a sign.
Yeah, I asked for a sign, man. And it's popped up on my For You page, man. Dude, man, I think one thing, man, as we start to land the plane, we still got about 15 more minutes, y'all. One thing that I think we need to make sure, you know what? I'm not gonna go down that road, right? Yeah, because the thought is gone. The thought is gone. The thought is gone. The thought is gone. All right, so let's just keep going. Let's keep going.
With it.
We start talking about Steven. I got thrown off, man. Now, Steven, God bless you, bro.
Hey,
God bless you.
Messing up this whole podcast, Steven. It was meant for you. God said today.
I'm really trying to think if I know anybody named Steven that will actually be watching this right now.
I got a cousin named Steven. Shout out to my cousin.
Hey, cousin Steve, man. Dude, so all right, man. Let's. I want to talk about. It's two different things I want to talk about before we leave. I don't think we're gonna have time to talk about both of them.
Okay,
but I felt like we talked about bitterness last time, so I'm not gonna touch on that one. But that's the big one. Go back and watch that one, man. Bitterness and holding on to that anger and frustration, man, and just kind of festering on it. It's just bad. It's bad for the marriage. Bad for the health of the marriage, right? But one thing, man, as we kind of end on this note, it talks about Gary talks about in the book. He talks about talk about your wife in a positive and encouraging way. Around other people when she is not around. To other people when she isn't around.
Indirect affirmation.
Right. Indirect affirmation, man. So like if your wife can cook good, if she can fix stuff good, if she can decorate the house, if she can do whatever she does, if she can fix cars good, whatever she does, you just make sure that you are being intentional with telling other people. And it makes me think of a story, man. Our pastor, we were talking about this probably about two months ago, and we were talking about the importance of affirming your wife with other people when she isn't around. And they were on a mission trip, man. Church goes on a bunch of mission trips, and he was just bragging on his wife, right? Just bragging on her. He wasn't even like, that's just what he does, man. It's just great marriage, man, great relationship. And so he's just talking about it, like he always does, right? And so one night during the mission trip, they're on FaceTime. He's on FaceTime with his wife, and you just talking to her, hey baby, how you doing? And one of the ladies that was on the mission trip with them, she comes up and basically like interrupts her conversation. It's like, girl, let me tell you, he didn't talk about you. He didn't say you did this and did this and did that, man. And so she was just like, she was just amazed at the fact of the love and the appreciation that he had for her, that she felt like, hey, the next time I get a chance, I'm gonna tell her what he said about her. So she busts, in the middle of that FaceTime thing. And homeboy, I'm sure he got plenty of brownie points for that one right there, man. Plenty of brownie points. Plenty of brownie points for that one. But man, let me ask you that, man. Like when it comes to talking well about your wife when she isn't around, man. Tell me about your experiences with that.
It's easier to do it with strangers than with people that I know.
Okay.
And that know us. So that's the thing. So when I was reading that section, the one that jumped out to me is talk well about your wife to your kids.
Okay.
Your kids who are in the same house.
Yeah.
They see y'all at times going back and forth. Unfortunately, they be in part of that.
Right.
Talking well about their mom to them in front of them.
Right.
Or after I done talked to my mama, yeah, she just this, and that. Talking well to someone like that. And so I think that it's been easy to talk about her to strangers, to people that don't know her. Like, hey, I got an amazing wife. And hey, fellas, just a tip, like if you ever in a situation, unfortunately, where you at a store, you out in public, or you somewhere and your wife not there, and the ladies realize your wife not there, just start talking about your wife.
Yeah.
And speaking well about how amazing she is.
Boy,
I bet you that shut it down. And you're like, man, why you got to talk about her? I'm interested.
Right.
Well, my wife is more interesting. I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, I think that's a great defense. That's a great way to kind of fight that and just kind of kill it right there. Like, hey, I'm gonna start thinking about the gift that my wife is, and the blessing and all the things. Man, that'll help you out and that'll help the other person. So I think that it's always been easier for me, but the hard part has been when it comes to people that know us and know all the things that we go through, to still speak well of her, and to not give in or even allow them to say something. No, you know what? I don't think you actually know my wife. There are moments where I could like push back, and it's like, nah, I'm just, you right. That's exactly how I feel.
Right.
So I think that's a thing. And the Lord, like, that's one thing that the Lord has kind of exposed through this book, where it's just like, hey, bro, like, you can do a better job at how you talk to your wife around your family, around your friends. Like, hey, like, come on, come up, come up. Like, your kids need to hear not just the bad things, but they need to hear the good things about your mom. Right. And they need to hear it out of your mouth. Right. And I need you to say some specific things, not just general things. Cause it's like y'all know, y'all know I love your mama, right? Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay. Right. But y'all was just cussing each other out in another room.
Just going in. Like, and I said that right. Y'all know we love each other, right? Because it probably don't look like love, but I promise you. Right. It's like, well, these are the things that I love about your mom. Yeah. And just laying it out there. I think that is a thing. And you know what's funny is I think that I did this better when we were dating. Yeah. As opposed to when I secured the bag and we got married. Yeah. It was like, okay, I got her now. I don't have to do as much work. And I think for us men, we got to realize, when you secure the bag, there's still work to be had. You got to double down. Not just say, hey, I'm doing this. You got to double down. Right. And I heard this said before. It was like, when you're married, and this is, not really to the point, but it is to the point. When you're married, the enemy tries to get you in bed with a significant other. And when you get married, he's trying to get you out of bed with your significant other. Like, it's like he's working toward this opposition so that you don't grow in intimacy. Goodness. And I think that's a reality for us when we find ourselves, like, how we speak about our wives.
That's good, man. My wife left a comment, man. She said, that's real transparency, Rav. Come on and help somebody, man. Appreciate that.
I'm trying to help Steven.
Trying to help Steven. Where you at, Steven? Like, let's go.
That's real.
Man, I think two things, man. I want to talk about the kids, how you talk to your kids. And I want to talk about how you talk to your in-laws, right? So help me to remember the second one, right? I think that's one thing that's big about how you talk to your wife, to your kids. Yeah. I think it's important because I think naturally especially for kids, right?
Good. I'm sorry.
They can, it's real good. Our kids do a good job of pointing out the bad in us, right? Yeah. Like my daughter was in my face the other day. She was like, Dad, what's that in your face? Oh man. I think I had like a pimple on my lip, by my lip. She's like, Dad, what's that thing just sitting there just looking nasty and ugly, just all looking stinking, just sitting there, just looking right. And so kids are good at pointing out the bad. And I just remember, man, my daughter, man, she was just talking, man. Just talking outside her neck. And she started saying stuff, mommy this and mommy that and mommy this and mommy that. And it just started getting negative. And I said, baby, mama's like really, really, I can't remember what it is. I said, mama's really, really smart. Mama's really good at this. Or, mama's good at this. Come on. And then it was just like, oh, yeah. And so even though she wasn't trying to be mean, even though she wasn't trying to be hurtful towards my wife, sometimes she is, right? But there's times where even in those moments you correct it, right? And I don't have to go back and tell my wife, she was saying your breath was stinking like real bad yesterday. I mean, she said it always stink, but it was extra stinking. Like, I don't have to go back and tell that, whatever, right? But I know when I see those moments or when I'm there, I just say, "Hi, baby. Um, I understand you may feel that way, but your mama's awesome, right? And this is how, right? Your mama's amazing, and this is how, right? So that they can do that, and she's a kid, so it shifts in her mind. She's like, oh yeah, mama is really good at that, whatever. And so that's one thing I think we need to make sure that we're being intentional of, because I think not just kids, right? Because kids are mean. Kids are mean because they're honest, right?
Right.
Kids are mean because they have no filter, right? And it's not that they're trying to be mean. Well, most of the times,
that's hilarious.
But they just have that. They're kids, so they don't have the filter. So when it comes to your kids and stuff like that, man, you want to make sure that you're being intentional with just correcting that, right?
Right.
Just correcting that. My wife was talking about her little self, talking about my daughter. She a mess. All right. And then the last thing, man, I want to talk about is in-laws. I think this is a big one. Right. We talked about this on the podcast before. We want to make sure that we are always speaking positively towards our spouse when we are talking to our in-laws or talking to our parents or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm just like so frustrated with my wife and I just go talk to my mom about it or talk to my dad about it, right? That's something we talked about in premarital counseling. Like that's like a no-no. Like your parents, your sister or whatever, I don't think any of them should be in your business like that. I just don't think so, right? Some relationships, it can be different. Some people are more mature than others. But I would say, man, just as a note, man, is keep your family out of your marriage. I really do think that's it. Unless things are getting just like horrible and bad, like I don't think they need to be, especially with like little stupid stuff, right? Right. If you go on, you whine to your mama because your wife left her heels out and you tripped over me. I can't stand it. Well, she'll never do that. She don't clean up this,
she did that as a
yada
kid.
yada, right? And so what happens is, we talked about this in the podcast too. What happens is you get your family all hyped up or mad towards your wife. Y'all go settle it and y'all are fine. But your family, you go to the family reunion the month later, everybody at the family reunion mad because of XYZ. Y'all done forgot about it, right? And so I would say, man, when you are around your in-laws or around your parents or whatever, man, you just talk about them. Just talk about them in a good, positive way. Like, not just you have to be extra or whatever. And then even like you said, in those times where you're maybe getting the negative feelings or the negative whatever about them, like to not be too defensive, but to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm not gonna let you talk about my wife like that, right? I'm not gonna let you talk. My wife was telling me, man, she was like, somebody was saying something about me one time. She heard it. And she said, I can't remember how she responded, but it was just like, all right now. Hey,
you said too much.
Hey, and she did it in a way where it's just like y'all. She wasn't telling them like y'all shut up, but she was basically telling them y'all got to shut up or not talk about my husband while I'm around. You do whatever you do, but she got she stood up for me, man. But I think too, man, like the main thing is that family, because your family is always going to be there. Right. Your family's always going to be the ones who are going to be at the events, who's going to be at the Thanksgivings and Christmases and stuff like that, where stuff tends to blow up. But you always want to make sure that you're feeding into the positivity of your marriage and stuff like that.
Speak life.
So speak life into it, man.
Speak life.
Yeah.
Hey, I think
my wife said she was ready to go left. She was ready to go.
Man. And I think so. You equip your kids and your in-laws when you do that in ways where I think in-laws need to see it, because they may have been married for a long time and have never seen that before.
Wow.
And kids have never seen it, and it's like when they get older and they get into marriage, they know how to speak to their spouse or speak of their spouses. It's like, hey, all of these things ain't got to be true right now either.
Right.
I want to speak to the future spouse. I want to speak to the person that's in process and where I want to see them. I'm going to be more patient when my wife say, that brother's patient. You know what I mean? Like, it's this reciprocal relationship. It's a beautiful thing. Y'all need boundaries in your relationship with your parents, because it's a new relationship. It's like we were called to leave and cleave. Like the relationship I had with my parents is different now. So I'm not about to go to them and tell them every little thing. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that you and your wife need to work and settle through those things. So
I think, man, as we close, man, one thing for me, like growing up, man, especially in middle school, man, I told my dad about everything.
Yeah.
All right. So this is one of the harder things, but not hard.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that I had to be intentional with when we got into our engagement and dating real heavy and stuff like that with me and my wife, is I had to make sure, like, yo, like, Pops don't need to know all this, right? Pops doesn't need to know all this information. And now my wife has become the person that I tell everything to, right? My wife has become the person who, when I'm frustrated or trying to figure things out, like, there's nothing, or there shouldn't be anything, right, that I can't take to her, even if it's about her. Right? Even if it's about her, right? Of course, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. How you say it is whatever. But I don't think there's anything, right? If you're looking for a goal in your marriage, right? I think there should be like no, like just an open door policy, right? There should be nothing held back from how you struggle, the way you think, all the kind of stuff. You should be able to talk to your wife about that kind of stuff. And I think that's a good goal to kind of go towards. And man, for me, like I said, I had to let go of how I talked to, like, my pops and stuff about it, and really touch on really just pouring into her and leaning on her for everything. Cool.
Yeah, that's your support. That's your support. And it's like how you engage and interact in that relationship shows what your support system is.
Right.
Is my support my wife, or is my support my parents?
Yeah, man. I'm finna give me some brownie points. I didn't got me some brownie points. Let me see right here. My wife commented. She said, commented. There it is. All right. She says, my family always compliments how well you speak of me to them.
Wow.
I love how you protect me in that way,
on,
baby. Boy, I done got me some points, boy.
Shout out to the Men to Men podcast.
Yeah, shout out to the Men to Men podcast, bro.
We are live.
But yeah, man, I think that's good, man. Yeah, so to kind of wrap up our conversation today, guys, at the core of everything that we talked about today is watch what you say.
Yes.
And watch how you say it.
Words are important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can dial in how you say things and what you say to your wife, man, I promise you it's going to make things better, right? Think about how you respond. Make sure that you respond in a way that's honoring, not just to her, but honoring to God. And if we filter everything through the fact that, hey, is this honoring to God, man, I think that'll help a lot of marriages out there. Facts. I really do.
Facts.
I really do, man.
Get that book.
Get the book. It's right here.
Stop playing. I've been reading it. I said, sweetie, do you remember this? I told my wife that.
Look at that.
We need to get this back. We need to read through these chapters.
Right there.
Gary Chapman.
Yeah, we need to go through it again too. That'd be good.
That's good.
Cool, man. So we'd like to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of the Men to Men podcast. It's always a privilege, man. Always an honor to have you on the podcast. And it's even more of an honor to have you in person. Y'all, we gonna snag him up every time he come to Harrisburg. He probably didn't even want to be here today.
No, I did.
No.
My wife was like, what we doing? We going to see family? I'm going to see Drake. We doing this podcast.
Hey, don't be getting me in trouble now, bro. Like,
I'm leaving here to go to
you about to go hang out with the fan, right? You'll be like, nah, James. I don't want your wife mad at me. I don't want her to have to use her words on me. Cool, man. We would like to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode. Don't forget, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on Apple, make sure that you leave an actual written comment review. I think on Spotify, go ahead, give us 5 stars. Go ahead, give us 5 hearts or whatever it is. And any other platform you listen to this on, man, just make sure you do that. And then send it to a friend. If you have a man that is struggling to honor God in every single part of his life, we're not perfect, but we are trying to help them to do better.
Yes.
So go ahead and say that. Other than that, you got anything?
It's great, bro.
Man, that's it, dude. Oh, appreciate y'all, man. Y'all have a blessed day, and God bless y'all. Peace.